GM, welcome to What's Me and another fantastic episode of DevNTell. So, if you didn't know, DevNTell is a 30-minute podcast held every Friday, allowing founders, hackers, and anyone in between an opportunity to come on the show and showcase what they built. And today, I'm really ecstatic to welcome Dr. Clarice D. Aiello from the Quantum Biology Institute. So, if you didn't know, the Quantum Biology Institute is engineering the future of biology using endogenous quantum degrees of freedom that seem to exist in all living beings. So, if you stick around for today's episode, you'll get to meet Dr. Clarice D. Aiello, learn about how she co founded the Institute, and learn all about quantum biology. All right, let's get into it. GM, welcome to the show, Clarice. I'm ecstatic to have you on today.
I am so happy to be here too, Norm. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah. As soon as Stanley Bishop, a friend of the show, recommended you, I like, yeah,
Stan
we
is
have to get
awesome.
Claire's
Stan
on.
is
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
Stanley is awesome for sure. Yeah. I mean, quantum biology. It sounds like quite the loaded term. And I'm sure there's lots of fascinating material
Yes.
you have prepared for us. I know I'm really curious to learn more about it. I haven't heard about it before. But before we get into all that good stuff, perhaps would you like to give a introduction about yourself?
Sure. So, first of all, the accent that you're hearing there, I'm from Brazil. I'm born and raised in Brazil, and I am trained as an experimental quantum physicist. I've been in the US since 2007. I've been an academic. Now I jumped out of academia to fund the Quantum Biology Institute, and not only the quantum biology ecosystem that comprises the institute, which is its research arm, a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, that is its community arm, and soon we're going to go live with a quantum biology incubator to incubate the technologies that we're developing mostly at the institute.
Wow, that's amazing and quite the background. Just curious, like, was there any particular thing that motivated you to kind of go or come into this field?
Yes, and that's a cool story. So, quantum biology is the field that investigates the extent to which biology might run on quantum. And if you will, it's quite a profound statement because what it means is that there might be this sort of scale shift phenomenon. Like quantum physics are describe the laws of nature at very tiny length scale, at the length scale of just a couple of atoms, a couple of molecules. And if you will, the idea is that things that happen at much tiny length scales, much fast length scales might be having a macroscopic influence in biology and at much longer time scales. Right, so this is what we study. There are several flavors of quantum biology. The evidence, so quantum biology is not new. It's never made into the mainstream for reasons that we're going to talk about, I hope. Um, and one of the goals of the Institute is to provide enough data to unambiguously prove or refute that biology runs on quantum, and to bring really this field to the mainstream with a lot of uh, potential applications and implications for technology and for the future of biology.
Interesting, fascinating. And it's not only you behind the institute, correct? There are other folks that you work with. Did you
Yes.
want to just give them a shout
Yeah,
out?
I
Yeah.
found out, yes. Yes, so first of all, there is a whole team at the DAO, right? Creating community to foster the field. There is the team at the Institute, both the scientists and the support team. And it's really cool, I think, what we're doing here at the Institute because we're a bunch of scientists who are comfortable with being uncomfortable because quantum biology is an interdisciplinary field by excellence, but I mean by definition, right? There is no other way to put it, and it's really crazy because like the biologist enters the physics lab every day. We going through the lab, we see what the biologists are doing in the wet lab bench. So it's quite cool. It's quite special. And I don't think there are many places on Earth where this kind of super strong collaboration can happen. And I think that uh, cool science happens at the border of disciplines where barriers sort of start uh, disappearing. And I am super happy to be able to learn every day and to explore this frontier. So kudos to all the people making this possible.
Definitely, definitely, and I loved when you said, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's kind of a mantra and something that's, etched into my DNA as well. So, yeah, I mean, you know you're working on something that's worthwhile, when when you're in that
Yep.
kind of a state. Yep,
When you're
100%.
like humbled by how much you need to learn. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And, I guess, in terms of all the awesome folks that are working with you, is there some sort of origin story there of how you all kind of found each other? Or, is it just,
Yeah,
yeah.
let me tell you how I found my way into quantum bio, right? So I am trained, as I mentioned, as an experimental quantum physicist. In particular, I build instruments. This means that I build instruments to study and control quantum objects like electrons, right? So I'm trained in a field known as quantum sensing. You can actually mathematically prove that if you use a quantum object, like an electron, as a sensor, your measurement is improved. In other words, the sensor quantumness enhances the measurement. So for my PhD, I worked on such a technological quantum sensor, which was a electron trapped in diamond, in the material diamond. And in particular, this electron was and is widely studied as a very good quantum sensor, for example, of magnetic fields. Okay. So after I finished my PhD, PhDs are traumatic. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I spent 1 year teaching, and then I started sending away CVs, and I ended up being a postdoc in a chemistry lab. Whatever I was doing in that lab doesn't enter this story at all, but it was super important that I was immersed in a chemistry department. There, almost by chance, I learned that chemists had known for decades that certain electrons within proteins were behaving, were sensing magnetic fields in a way that a quantum physicist would describe as bona fide quantum sensing. Except that the chemists don't call it like this, they call it something else, right? People need to talk, folks. And I then realized that uh, there might be a relation between what people were seeing in test tubes and what I was studying in inorganic materials. And this whole shebang historically goes from chemistry to biology because of birds. Now, all due respect to birds, but I couldn't care less about birds because this is way more widespread than that. But the poster children of this flavor of quantum biology, of this flavor of potential true nature-made quantum sensing in proteins migrates from chemistry to biology because of birds, because birds when they navigate and they migrate super long distances, they do so using, at least as a partial cue, the magnetic field of the Earth, which is tiny. It's like orders of magnitude smaller than the magnetic field produced by your cell phone. And to this date, the prevailing theory is that they do so guided by this type of quantum-like phenomenon happening within electrons within particular proteins, right? So um, this theory has been around, has been proposed actually in 1978, and experiments with birds are consistent with this hypothesis that under the hood, they're doing this due to the quantum-like phenomenon that people unambiguously have shown in test tubes at room temperature and for biocompounds. And now we come to the problem, which is really a problem that is pervasive for all flavors of quantum biology, not this one that I study, which is the fact that all evidence for all flavors of quantum biology exists at two very distinct length scales. There is no doubt that for all those quantum biology phenomena, there's no doubt that things need quantumness to work for test tubes, right? And we can talk about other flavors of quantum biology in a second. But the next level of evidence comes for plates of cells or organisms like birds and many, many others that react to external stimuli in a way that is consistent with their behavior, depending on the type of quantum phenomena that people see in test tubes. But to date, no one has unambiguously proven or refuted at the level of a single cell that quantumness is actually active inside cells. And this is important because everything that starts quantum dies classical. That is, there's only a short amount of time during which quantumness can express itself before it's brought back to classicality. This is why we live in a classical world, because when there are many quantum things that come together, those things are brought back to classicality. So really the important question that has not been observed yet is, can quantumness inside cells survive for long enough for it to be biologically relevant? And long enough is not extremely long, right? It's not like seconds or minutes at all. It's like in the flavor of quantum biology that I study, it has to do with like microseconds. But there's a reason why quantum physics and the first quantum experiments were done at low temperature in a vacuum, right? Because controlled environments can keep their quantumness for long. So it's counterintuitive to think that quantum physics might be happening in the warm, hot, messy environment of the cell. And the thing that needs then to be proven or refuted for us to check if quantum biology exists, really is active, is the measurement of the time scales during which quantumness can survive, say, inside cells. And for that, we need new instruments. I believe that instruments drive science forward, and it's a type of this this type. It's a type of such instrument that we're developing here at the Quantum Biology Institute that we hope will be able to unambiguously prove or refute that quantumness can survive inside cells for long enough for being biologically relevant.
Interesting, interesting. So it's not only research that your institute is doing, but it's also developing these new apparatus that you actually need to be able to do some of this research.
Yes, and to finally go beyond the type of data that has existed for like decades, which is only at the level of test tubes or like correlative data coming from pure biology. So, if you will, the instruments that we're building, the goal is that we're going to be able to study and control those electrons inside proteins in the same way that, for example, physicists try to study and control those technological quantum sensors inside inorganic materials, right? So, if you will, those instruments are glorified microscopes with with quantum capabilities, and we need them to be glorified microscopes because we need to be able to keep cells alive and happy. But we're going to try to excite and like those endogenous quantum knobs that apparently exist in all types of cells, including our own, just to make sure there is nothing special about bird cells. Well, there
Right.
might be for other purposes, but our hypothesis is that there is this base layer of quantumness that might be active in all our cells.
And this is that notion of the quantum biology hypothesis, correct?
That's
That
correct,
notion?
right?
Gotcha.
Yes,
Yeah.
that we're calling quantum biology hypothesis, which we want to be able to prove or refute. And again, we study the flavor of how biology interacts with tiny magnetic fields, but there are other flavors. For example, and just something that people might know. Two examples. Um, Today, it's known, at least in test tubes, that the catalytic activity of enzymes, enzymes exist to make chemical reactions go faster. The catalytic activity of enzymes only work because of a quantum phenomenon known as tunneling. That's one example. The other example has to do with photosynthesis. So the first steps of photosynthesis, which have to do with like absorbing the energy from a photon and moving this energy around, this first step of photosynthesis is way more efficient than any solar cell ever produced by humankind. So, and one of the explanations for that has to do with another type of quantum phenomenon called noise-assisted process. So there are several examples of flavors of quantum biology, and just for the experts, the quantum sensing modality that we study having to do with sensing tiny magnetic fields is mediated by a quantum property known as superposition. So, and this is just like what quantum biology is, and we didn't talk yet about why I think this might be a game changer, not only for basic science, but for like how we can actuate on biology using those quantum knobs.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get into it. But before we get into that, there was a point earlier when you were describing the apparatus that your institute is creating, and the fact that a lot of the research before that was largely focused on test tube experiments. Do you do you know why there hasn't been a larger effort to kind of expand the research and experimentation in this field before your institute? Like, was it just like
Well,
kind of
well,
like yeah,
uh, 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 so really taking quantum measurements is the realm of the experimental quantum physicist. Um, so I think what we need is for more than chemists and biologists. I think we also need the quantum physicists to join the field, right? And another point is that since the data produced so far is just correlative, quantum biology as a field has been underfunded, right? So the field has had trouble raising money, retaining and acquiring talent. So we think that this needs to change. Right. Funding from our institute came from a crypto raise conducted by the DAO, and we think that this is a DeSci modality that is going to help set a lot of fields free, right? And yeah, and we think that you know, the fact that those instruments are being developed by quantum physicists in close collaboration with biologists is something new. The fact that we now have enough money to invest in those instruments, which are like multi-million-dollar machines, is going to help us. And it's both an investment in money and time. Quantum instruments cannot be bought. They need to be assembled Lego-wise, right? And home designed, home built. So this also drains a lot of time, which sometimes, funders don't understand that we need time. And again, I do think I'm an instrument builder. I think that instruments drive science forward. You need new instruments if you want to get to new science. For example, there is a field of quantum biology that has been stuck in time, if you will, because I don't think there has been a lot of investment in instrumentation since a seminal paper was published in like 2007, and that's a pity, I find, right? And we need to get both funders and researchers on the same page that instrumentation needs to happen. And again, building instruments doesn't get enough street cred because the currency is like number of papers, right? So if you get a new instrument and you can just produce data, you're hailed as a productive researcher without realizing that that instrument was the sweat, tears, and blood of like a team of physicists that came before you. So scientific priorities need to change, and people need to understand. There's so much wrong with the way that the incentives of science nowadays, right? And that's a cool thing about the institute, because since we don't depend on the academic system, we have so much freedom to try cool things. Something that I'm really excited about that we're going to put online, hopefully before the end of the year, but hopefully in 1 or 2 months, is we hope to put all our scientific enterprise online and in real time. Like, we want to share what we're doing in real time with people to both show that progress is being made, but also to like it's taking a page from like the Unix concept, like do everything as an open source so that more people can enter. So again, all our electronic lab notebooks, our raw data sets, they're all going to go online, hopefully very, very soon. And I think it's a point of pride. I'm extremely excited to see how this experiment in doing science, in like this meta experiment, is going to go.
That's amazing, and I'm sure it's going to go extremely well. It's like
I mean,
whenever you're trying.
maybe
Yeah,
people won't care there, Narv. I mean, maybe people won't
it
care,
could be.
right?
It's
But
possible. Yeah,
it's possible. But
yeah.
I think we have the resources and the flexibility to try. And I'm super interested because this type of experiment might be of interest to your audience, right? Because it's a big effort in programming, in dotting the i's, crossing the t's, for there to be a complete automation pathway to make that possible. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know until you try, right? Yeah,
Yes.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And, I guess this is a good segue, to kind of get into the research,
Yeah.
that you're all doing at the institute and its
Yes.
significance. Yeah, so, uh, floor is yours. Yeah,
Cool. So here's the deal, right? We talked about birds. Birds historically are really the reason why I'm here. But if we only talk about birds, we miss the forest for the trees, right? What happens is that there's like decades of correlative evidence that magnetic fields of the tiny type, there's a real reason why I'm usually qualify those as weak magnetic fields. So we know that biology responds to large magnetic fields. That's, for example, how magnetic resonance scanners that you find in hospitals, that's how they work. That's also the field of nuclear magnetic resonance and so forth. That's a way that biology reacts to huge magnetic fields. What we're concerned with here is how biology responds to weak magnetic fields on the order of the magnetic field produced by your cell phone. Okay, which is important because, again, big coils, big magnetic fields are hard to produce. Weak magnetic fields are easy. So this is why we think that once we understand mechanistically under the hood how those mechanisms are working, the translation into technology is going to be easy. So back to the basics. There is decades of experimental evidence that weak magnetic fields change biology big time and in a way consistent with this quantum mechanism underlying the sensitivity. If that's okay, I wanted to show a couple of slides to show you. And can you show? Yes, you can see.
yep.
Okay, so here's the idea. right? And for very long, and now I'm going to ask you to post this link, but for a very long list of how magnetic fields might affect biology, I compiled the tables from 5 different reviews, and the whole table you can find in this link bit.ly dash big M, big F, big E for magnetic field effects, MFE biology. Okay, but the idea is that weak magnetic fields have been shown to change, among many different things, all those phenomena that you see there on the screen, from how fast cells proliferate, to how much energy is being produced by the cells, to how much oxidative stress is produced, to how much DNA is being repaired, to how ion channels function, and to how your cellular skeleton is configured. And the idea is that if the underlying reason is correct, by using weak magnetic fields, you can both up and down regulate all of those phenomena. These results have been explored and seen throughout the tree of life, and for all types of cells, like for many types of even human cells, right? So this phenomena up to nowadays has been explored completely haphazardly. So there's this little picture here in the center of my slide of a haystack and a needle, because I compare it to being in a haystack, grabbing a little bit of hay and finding a needle. What people and there's even companies that do that for a living. They play around with magnetic fields, they find an effect, and then they produce devices that produce that particular magnetic field. But if you will, it's like there's this huge phase space, right, of magnetic field intensity, frequency, direction, duration of exposure. And people place dots in this phase space, but they cannot link the dots. So it's this huge trove of knowledge, but there's very little deterministic knowledge, right? It's all correlative. So what we want to do is break clean with this old way of looking at this phenomenon and try to find what we're calling the code book or the cookbook of how to deterministically understand and control those phenomena, so that you can control those phenomena in biology for function. And we believe that to do this, you need those glorified microscopes that are depicted schematically to the right. And those microscopes have 4 ingredients. It's a microscope, that's this loop here, coupled to a magnetic field, which can be a permanent magnet or coils. Everything synchronized down to the nanosecond timescales, because that's the time scale of the quantum phenomena that we're interested in, and coupled to single photon detectors. Single photon detectors capture, for example, the light emitted by the proteins that we care about. And in fact, the light has quantum signatures to it. It turns out that just by looking at how strongly the proteins that we care about, how strongly they are emitting light, we can actually infer the quantum state of the electrons that we care about in the proteins. I'm not explaining how this works, but that's how this works. So there are 4 ingredients to our instruments, and we believe that those instruments can give us causal data of what's going on. And if you couple that to simulations, if we engage with the theoretical quantum physicists to simulate and understand this data, we're going to be able to write this code book with predictive power of how to engineer magnetic fields to actuate on biology for function. Again, this is not a basic science curiosity, because we do think that this might have, again, not now, but maybe in 20 years, 30 years, that this can have big time implications, right? So the cool thing about this is that, and I'm going to go through those symbols here at the top, you don't need to do genetic engineering. I mean, you can do to potentialize some effects, but it seems that nature has already imbued cells with those degrees of freedom that are endogenous, right? Uh, the thing, so right now, you mostly actuate on biology via chemicals. Here, there are no chemicals involved. There's like electromagnetic radiation, right? Magnetic fields. Magnetic fields are very cool because they penetrate much deeper into tissue. You don't need to do surgery and put a laser that cannot penetrate super deep. So it's non-invasive potentially. It's cheap, remotely actuated potentially, right? And again, it might be that it might be treatments at the hand of anyone with a cell phone. Again, you don't need big magnets like those you find in hospitals. The magnetic fields, because they're weak, can be potentially made by your cell phone. And I know that unfortunately, people with money usually do not care about global health. I think this could have crazy global health implications, right? Imagine someone in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have access to like a village hospital or something. Maybe the village doctor could send a treatment to an app, and then, or maybe you could have an app in your phone, and you could say, you could go there to the app and say, well, today I need help with wound healing. Wound healing is another thing that has been correlatively shown to depend on weak magnetic fields in a way consistent with this quantum stuff. And then you go there, you click on the wound healing settings, and then you do something with your phone. And again, we think that this can have application for theranostics. There are companies that are already applying this to treat cancer, to enhance muscle function in athletes and the elderly. It can increase performance. It can help with anti-aging, but it also has, say, implications for biomanufacturing, for food security. There's a company in Singapore that is applying magnetic fields to increase the yield of lab-grown meat, right? Imagine if you could increase the reproduction yield of insulin producing bacteria, huge implications for biomanufacturing, food security. Of course, we talked about birds. Birds is the reason why we're talking. I think that can have implications for like native behavior. Birds are not the only organisms that migrate in a way that is consistent with this mechanism. Turtles, some fish also seem to sense the magnetic field of the Earth in a way consistent with that. And also something that is not super talked about. So it seems that motility, say of flagella beating, might also be tweaked by magnetic fields. So this might have implications for like reproduction biology, right? If you can make sperm more motile with weak magnetic fields. The other thing is that I think we can really learn with nature how to build better quantum technologies. I do think nature is the best quantum engineer that is around. Humankind got to quantum physics 200 years after the Industrial Revolution. I think that nature, having had billions of years, might be doing a much better job, right? I think we can learn with nature how to survive, how to have quantumness survive at room temperature, right? And the craziest thing that I talk about that people find very, very cool is, for example, if we want to colonize Mars, we really need to be thinking about magnetic fields, not only because the magnetic field of the Earth protects us against cosmic rays, but also because the tiny magnetic field of the Earth might be having an effect, a big time effect on how things develop. Our lab has done probably the most extensive study to show that those effects are real. Correlative evidence for that has been around for decades. And people always say, oh, it's a small N. Oh, the experiment is not very well controlled. So my lab and I, kudos to a researcher called Alessandro Lodesani. We did what apparently is the largest experiment ever in this very well-studied model in biology, which are tadpoles, which are xenopus. Okay, tadpoles are one of out of many uh, model organisms for biologists. And it turns out that we studied more than 2,000, I think almost 3,000 tadpoles growing half under the magnetic conditions of the Earth and half with the tiny magnetic field of the Earth subtracted. Again, magnetic field of the Earth, orders of magnitude tinier than the magnetic field of your cell phone. Again, largest N ever for tadpoles, extremely well controlled. We controlled for pH, evaporation, light, humidity. And we did find that tadpoles grown under the magnetic field of the Earth actually grow slightly faster. Okay. And if you want to colonize Mars, you do need to care that the magnetic field of Mars is different from the magnetic field of the Earth with very tangible consequences. This is not on the menu of NASA and of SpaceX. We've tried to talk to them. They come to us and say, well, but it's a tiny magnetic field. It cannot be that they care. We're like, no, you're missing the entire point, right? And again, my hypothesis, having read about this so much, is that for adult organisms, the effects are chronic, whereas for growing organisms, like for embryos and growing plants, for example, the effects are acute. So yeah, if you want to reproduce in Mars and if you want to grow food in Mars, you really need to care about those tiny magnetic fields that seem to be making a difference. I mean, it's not unusual to think that life on Earth is optimized for the magnetic conditions of Earth. The unusual thing is to realize the tiny differences in magnetic field, because there seem to be those very good quantum sensors inside cells. Those tiny magnetic fields are making a difference, right? And we should care about those. And I think this concludes my 3 slides that I wanted to share with you, to show you that, you know, this is not a basic science curiosity. This has been around for super, super long time. We just need to formalize this knowledge to be able to deterministically actuate on biology using this electromagnetic knob that seems to be quantum in origin. Oof.
Wow. Yeah, my mind is blown. This is crazy.
Isn't this cool?
It
Shouldn't
is.
more
It is.
people know about this? Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, Elon, if you're watching this, like, I mean, come on, you want to go to Mars, right? It's
Quantum
like
Biology Institute.
Quantum
Yeah.
Biology Institute, right? And yeah, I guess on this topic, like, if somebody wanted to dive deeper into this field, are there
Yeah.
any academic papers or particular researchers people can follow or read up on?
So there's a very good layperson's book that describes many, many different flavors of quantum biology. This book is called Life on the Edge. So you don't need to have a technical background at all. It's a very cool read. It's a book by 2 researchers in quantum biology from the University of Surrey called Jim Al-Khalili, who's also a very famous British scientific communicator, and the other one is John Joe McFadden. So Life on the Edge. That's resource number 1. For how weak magnetic fields might interface with many different disciplines, I gave UNARB this link from our ecosystem. It's www.quantumbiology.eco, ECO for ecosystem, dash hashtag briefs. So we have like 1-pager briefs on quantum biology and AI, quantum biology and brain emulation, quantum biology and health, right? To really to satisfy the interests of many people. And again, I do think that weak magnetic fields can play a huge role on the future of biology, on the future of medicine. There's another modality of quantum bio that I didn't talk before, but there is a theory that posits that molecular recognition might depend on a modality of quantum biology that I call a noise-assisted process. And I do believe that this is also going to be something, might be something big, because if we understand molecular recognition better than today, it might help us design medicine in a way that is a little bit more rational than what we currently are doing today.
Fair enough, and
Fair
yeah,
enough. Yeah.
yeah. And I guess just before we conclude, for people that are curious to keep up with all the research and great work your institute is doing, what's the best way for people to keep in touch? I know you mentioned there's a DAO component as well. Yeah.
Yes, several ways. Okay. So the Quantum Biology Institute website, www.quantumbiology.org. Join our Discord at quantumbiology.community. The quantumbiology.community will take you to the Discord link for you to join the Discord. There is also a Google group that you can sign up for, where we talk about seminars, upcoming seminars, called quantumbiology.group. Again, this takes you to a Google group for you to sign up. So quantumbiology.org, quantumbiology.community to join the Discord and the DAO, and quantumbiology.group to join the Google group. And if you're curious about our super cool tadpole paper, so again, starting with our goal of sharing everything, all the data. So all the data for the tadpole study that I mentioned is online in GitHub. We posted a huge manuscript that is exactly 250 pages long. It's a point of honor because all our data is there, all the controls are there. And I think that that the tadpole paper can be found, let me check, at bit.ly/tadpole paper.
And we will have all these links for you in the description of the podcast below. So you can go and read up and watch all this content on your own leisure. We do have a question from Cypher here. Is there a token somewhere to support the research, or
Yes,
how can
yes.
people support the research?
Awesome. Yes, there is a token. It's called QBio. And it's so we were a DAO that was incubated with Bio Protocol, which is an incubator of DAOs. We're very happy for having been part of the second cohort. They were awesome. And together we launched the QBio token. So yes, you can have just Google for the QBio token. Also discuss about QBio in the Discord, quantumbiology.community. And thanks for supporting us. Yes.
Awesome. Great question, Cypher. Yeah, and I guess with that, I feel like we probably could have gone another hour going on various rabbit holes, but perhaps we can save that for future podcast appearances from me.
Awesome. Let me
Yeah,
know when you want to come
yeah.
back for us to continue, because there are many, many other flavors of quantum bio out there.
Awesome. I'm here for it.
I hope your audience got its interest piqued by
Oh,
that.
I,
And
I, well, I know I did. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of folks did as
Narb,
well.
are you local to LA now?
I'm in Vancouver actually, so
Oh, you're in
Hollywood
Vancouver
North,
too.
Hollywood
So
North, I guess.
when you come visit San, you come
Yeah,
visit us too at the Quantum Biology Institute
you got it.
headquarters. So
It's
you
on
have
my.
two reasons to come to LA now.
There we go. There we go. It's on my bucket list. There you go.
Cool.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, and with that, thank you so much, Clarice. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come chat with us today. And wishing you all the best, as well as the institute in your research. Yeah, it's really mind blowing, the work you're doing, especially after you explained it and all the significance there's around it.
And thank you for humoring me. Happy to continue this conversation. Thank you for the audience for being willing to learn about this crazy stuff called quantum bio. But I think it's pretty cool, and I hope you have fun learning about quantum physics and quantum biology.
Beautifully said. And with that, I just want to wish everybody a very happy Friday, happy weekend wherever you may be, and we'll catch you back here for another great episode of Dev and Tell next week. All right, have a good one. Cheers.